At the end of Ahsoka, we saw an extended montage of what some of our characters got up to after Thrawn returned to the main galaxy. One of Ahsoka's scenes involved her seeing an owl-like creature called a Convor perched on a rock and watching it fly away. It's a small moment, but an important one, and today I'll explain why for anyone who hasn't seen the Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels. That Convor is called Morai, and it's spiritually connected to Ahsoka. It's interesting that her name is close to Moirai, the name of the Fates in Greek mythology. I think that connects her with the concept of destiny. She's still surrounded in a bit of mystery, but we do know that she's related to an immensely powerful being in the Force called the Daughter. Morai first appeared in Star Wars Rebels, seen following Ahsoka around. In the episode A World Between Worlds, Ahsoka claims she owes the Convor her life. So what's that story about? In the Clone Wars series, Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan follow a strange ancient distress signal to a strange obelisk in the middle of space. Through it, they are transported to a mystical realm called Mortis. There, they meet three Force gods: the Daughter, who is a physical embodiment of the light side of the Force, the Son, who embodied the dark side, and the Father, who maintained the balance between his two children. It was he who summoned Anakin to replace him as his successor, but the Son wished to kill his father and escape Mortis. Part of his plan involved corrupting Ahsoka with his power, and when he was done using her, she died. The Son then fought with the Daughter and accidentally stabbed her before fleeing in grief and regret. The Daughter requested Anakin transfer the last bit of her life energy into Ahsoka, who was resurrected. The other two Force gods perished soon after during the Son's continued attempts to escape, and Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan returned to their own reality. The earliest we have seen Morai the Convor in the timeline was probably shortly after the end of the Clone Wars. Darth Vader searched for any hint of Ahsoka's whereabouts after Order 66 and found one of her lightsabers near a mass grave. A Convor could be seen flying overhead. I assume Morai followed Ahsoka ever since, keeping an eye on her, guiding her, and even guiding others, as we saw in Star Wars Rebels. It was Morai who led Ezra to a portal within the World Between Worlds, where he was able to save Ahsoka from certain death yet again. We've already seen the Convor in live action as well, very briefly in the Mandalorian Season 2 episode, The Jedi. So what does all of this mean for Ahsoka, the series? First, I think it's just a way of Morai showing Ahsoka that she and Sabine are not alone. They haven't been abandoned by the Force or destiny or the powers that be or whatever you want to call it. But I could also see Morai guiding Ahsoka to a way off Peridea, and I won't be surprised at all if that path will run her right back into Balin's skull. In his final scenes, we see him walking on some massive statues, staring off into the distance at a blinking light on a mountain. The wider shot of the statues shows that they are in fact the Father, the Son, and presumably the Daughter. So in a completely different galaxy, these Force gods are known. Peridea seems to have a deep relationship with the Force, with connections to the Night Sisters, the Zepho, and now Mortis. I wonder if there is a way to travel to Mortis from this planet, or maybe the realm of Mortis is on Peridea. We don't exactly know how the obelisk from the Clone Wars works. Maybe Mortis was inside of it, or maybe it teleported Anakin and the others all the way to Peridea, because the mountain in the distance Balin is looking at could be a structure we also saw on the Clone Wars, the monastery the Father called home, which has a mountainous shape and a shining crystal on top. We still have no idea what Balin is after, but I think it could make sense that if Ahsoka and Sabine are able to travel to Mortis, then they might be able to find a way to use its power to send them home. That could be a really cool, weird, mystical quest to send them on that fits in with this series' high fantasy and mythological inspirations, which I am very into, by the way. I love that within this universe, we can see very grounded storytelling in something like Andor, but then in Ahsoka go to the complete opposite end of the spectrum, diving hard into witches and dark towers and raising the dead and Force gods. But I could see Ahsoka and Sabine undertaking an arduous journey through the mountains, which, interestingly, has been teased by Dave Filoni before. In a Twitter post celebrating the anniversary of Star Wars Rebels, he shared an image he drew of a possible future for the two characters journeying through snow. That doesn't mean we'll definitely see this on screen someday, but it's got my attention for sure. I think it's also worth pointing out the Daughter's statue and the fact that it's crumbling away compared to the Father and the Son. That could be just natural decay, or I could also see the Night Sisters being responsible for that. They use dark side magic, meaning they would almost certainly worship the Son over the Daughter, so maybe they vandalized the representation of the light side of the Force. Whatever the reason, I think it could also connect back to Ahsoka and her future in the Star Wars universe. For years now, fans have discussed the fate of Ahsoka Tano. I think it's very likely that she could have a big, important, mythological destiny. Considering her connection to the Daughter and the fact that she literally has a Force god's life energy inside of her, I think Ahsoka could one day become like a new version of the Daughter, an ascended embodiment of the light side of the Force. The crumbling statue could be a symbol of that missing entity and the necessity to replace it for the sake of not just the galaxy, but the entire universe. I'm starting to dip into tinfoil hat territory here, but what we can see of the statue of the daughter, it kinda looks like Clone Wars Ahsoka to me. The daughter's outfit had these very puffy shoulders, and the statue was more angular. There also might be Montrals on what's left of the head, or it could be the daughter's collar. I don't want to dive too far down that rabbit hole, but it is interesting that we specifically can't make out that one statue, but we can easily see the father and the son. But those characters are also dead, so who can replace them? Anakin would be the easy choice for the father. He is the original father archetype of Star Wars, and he was also handpicked by the Mortis father as his successor. He has been both Jedi and Sith, and he finally found personal balance right before his death. He is the chosen one, meant to bring balance to the Force. I think he did fulfill that prophecy in life, but who's to say that his continuing spirit couldn't someday ascend the same way Ahsoka might? As for the son, that's a tougher one, and the fact that we don't have a super clear choice for a replacement is what keeps me from going all in on this whole theory. Plenty of fans have suggested Starkiller. I can see why both he and Ahsoka were apprentices of Anakin's, but Starkiller is a Legends character, and he stopped being a Sith apprentice and came back to the light side. The son is an interesting character because he is the embodiment of the dark side, but he is also sympathetic. He gives into his emotions and lets them control him, but he also feels regret and grief over his actions. He's not the embodiment of evil, just our darker impulses. Over the years, I've seen people suggest Ezra or Luke or now Baylan is in the mix, but none of those feel right to me. So it may be that we're barking up the wrong tree with that theory. The Mortis gods might never get replaced, but I do think Ahsoka has an important destiny of some kind ahead of her. She is the only character in Star Wars that has the avatar of a literal Force god watching over and guiding her, making sure she survives encounters with the Son and Darth Vader to get where she needs to be. And Ahsoka does tell Sabine that they are where they need to be as they're stuck on Peridea. I've seen people asking why Ahsoka is so calm about being stranded there when she was so worried about Thrawn's return. Why isn't she clamoring to get home? I think she is simply trusting the Force more. She knows they're stuck, so there's no sense in freaking out over it. As a Jedi, she will make the best of a bad situation. She and Sabine can still help the Noti. It doesn't mean they won't search for a way home, but losing her cool will solve nothing. Maybe she senses something on Peridea the same way Baylan does. Maybe seeing Morai helped her realize that there is something important for her here, some destiny calling. It could be as simple as stopping Baylan from achieving whatever he wants, or it could be as complex and mythological as replacing the daughter herself. We simply don't know yet. But if Morai is involved, then something mystical is probably in Ahsoka's near future, and now you know why that little owl is important to this story and Star Wars as a whole. Let me know if you have any more questions in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel for, yes, even more Ahsoka coverage, follow us on our socials, and consider checking out our Patreon page for video reactions and audio commentaries for every episode. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.